The Life of Li Huiyang.
From this day forth, you are all free. See here, these are the documents of your ownership.
What? I can't believe it.
You are no longer shackled. You are free to do what you like.
What have you done? Thank you so much, Master. How can we ever repay you? How could you free the slaves without father's permission? They were my gift, so I can do as I like. Look at how happy they are. What better present could there be? You can't enslave anyone with a piece of paper.
In 1905, Japan forced Korea to sign a treaty with them. The fourth of six brother, Huiyang, gathered his brother together to talk about Japan seizing their country's rights.
The reason why I asked you all to come here today is to discuss what we are going to do about taking away our nation's rights. Japan has acquired powerful foreign weapons and it's threatening our country. Now they force us to sign a one-sided treaty that they're calling an equality treaty. You're right. But what can we do about it? Brother, the big brother is asking now. We can sell our family estate and go to Manchuria to join the resistance against Japan. You want to sell our family home? We are the most powerful family in Korea, thanks to the people and the king. We wanted for nothing. Now our country is about to be occupied by Japan. How can we sit by and ignore what is happening? With all that we've received, if we aren't willing to sacrifice for our country, who will? You're right. How can we call ourselves an honorable family if we only worry about protecting our money? I also have other properties from my father-in-law. I will sell those too. How are you going to live? I'll become a farmer in Manchuria. I'll go with you. I also wanted to do something to help my country. Everybody, let's unite. I also want to go with you. As the Japanese occupation begins, the situation in Korea got worse. He wanted to start a base for a violent resistance movement in Manchuria. In order to build his base, he sold everything he owned, which today cost about 60 billion won. In 1907, Li Huiyang received some bad news. Huiyang, you won't believe this. Why all the ruckus? The secret Korean convoy to the International Peace Conference in Netherlands was not allowed in. He couldn't even get his foot in the door. In 1907, Emperor Gojong was informed about the International Peace Conference in Hague, where 44 countries would be participating for Li Huiyang. He sent a secret convoy there, to inform of Japan's aggressive actions. Lee Sang-sol, Lee Jun, Li Wui-chong headed the convoy to the conference. The plan for the secret convoy was leaked to Japan. and the Japanese refused them to enter in the conference. This enraged them so much, that Li Jun took his own life. Even though our country is weak, that's no reason to deny us to entry to the conference. This isn't a peace conference, they are all just like Japan. What chance is there, for a weak nation? How can they do this to us? It's like a weak country has no rights and can't tell about their situation. No, I was a fool to think they would help us. Japan has stolen our national rights, we have to get it back on our own. I swear it. The incident at Hague concerned the Japanese and they began to think of a way to annex Korea quickly. In 1910, Korea faced a day of disgrace when Japan dethroned Emperor Kojong and annexed Korea. After that, Mr. Lee and his whole family relocate to Manchuria to form a resistance against Japan. Mr. Lee worked secretly as a resistance leader from 1913 to 1919. Their work was so secretive that no documents exist to show of their efforts. In 1917, Mr. Lee ordered his son to meet with the Emperor Go-jong secretly. I wasn't followed, father. Did you give my message to the Emperor? Yes, sir. I told the king of your mission. Good work, son. From now we'll prepare for his arrival to Manchuria. However, Japan placed Emperor Go-jong under house arrest and he was forbidden to leave the palace. After that, Mr. Lee planned to inform other nations of their unfair treatment under Japanese rule. Mr. Lee is right. If I can escape to Manchuria, I can tell the world of our plight. If Mr. Lee tells me the time and place to make my escape, then I'll make my move. We'll try our best to make sure nothing goes wrong. I have a frog in my throat, bring me something to drink. Here's your favorite drink, sir. Give me, quickly. Just before he planned to escape, Emperor Go-jong died mysteriously. He died too suddenly for it to be considered a natural death. Many are still curious about how he died. Some insist that the Japanese knew of his plan to escape and planned on assassinating him by poisoning his drink. If you would have done what Apu have done what you were told, you would still be alive. In 1919, a temporary government was established in Korea. There was infighting the resistance on who would become the new leader. This left Mr. Lee very disappointed. Even the most noble of them began to fight for position. I can't forget the smiles on the faces of those who escaped to Manchuria, and now free from the Japanese. The biggest happiness in life comes from freedom. You are only truly free when no one is in control. I'll go my own way to find freedom, even if I have to go alone. It's my freedom to choose. From that day on, Mr. Lee was an anarchist. He walked away from the government but still fought for Korean independence. How many times will the resistance group, Damuldan, continue to attack us? I am sorry, sir, they are too elusive. You call that an excuse? Why can't you find the backers of this group? We can't find any leads to who they are. What did you say? The resistance is attacking us everywhere. How can you not find anything? It's true, we can't find any trace of the group's backers anywhere. I don't want to hear this. I am sick of your excuses. If this is true, let's keep it quiet. How can we do that? It won't look good to everyone that the great Japanese police force can't find a new terrorists. You've done extremely well. From now on, the Japanese will know to fear Damulden. For our country's independence, for freedom. You're as great as I've heard. My name is Kim Jongjin. How did you get here? Your actions have truly inspired me. You've done the hardest things without taking credit for it. I really respect that about you. I want to introduce you to my cousin General Kim Jae-wajan. Would that be okay? That certainly would be helpful. At that time General Kim Wajan was a nationalist. He didn't believe in anarchism. At that time General Kim Jae-wajan was a nationalist. He didn't believe in anarchism. Of course, your fame precedes you. I am Lee Hoi-young. Yes, your fame precedes you as well. Are there any Japanese people in your group? Anarchists don't care about race or nationality. I am fighting for our race. I don't believe in working with Japanese. To achieve freedom, it doesn't matter if a person is Korean or Japanese. I don't agree with your politics. It would be difficult for us to work together. Why did you leave the government and go your own way? You're an anarchist. You're on your own without the support of anyone. Why do you do it? It's been more than 10 years since I sold all my properties and formed a resistance in Manchuria. I've lost my wife, some of my brothers and friends. I saw someone light themselves in fire in protest and I understood why they did it. They risk their lives for freedom. I believe that I am right, and going on my own way as they did. That's my freedom. I don't agree with you, but I respect you for what you're doing. General Kim lead the resistance fighters. Sim Minbu, and Mr. Lee's anarchist group joined the fight with them. General Kim was a nationalist but he respected the anarchists. In 1930, General Kim was assassinated. The anarchists established a new group called the Korean Youth League, Southern China in Shanghai. Mr. Lee formed a sub-group known as the Black Terror. The Black Terror attacked the Japanese interest concession in Shanghai. The Black Terror used violence against the Japanese. In 1932. No way, Manchuria was occupied by Japanese. We can't send you there, it's very dangerous now. Send me there, I've already made decision to go. I started my resistance movement there, they need their freedom now, how can I not go? But sir, it's too dangerous, you'll die if you go. Even if the worst happens, I can accept that. This is the life I have chosen, I'll follow this path to the end. Sir, after I am gone, I want you to follow my example. Why do you want to sacrifice yourself for an old man? I'll escort you to the port. Okay, let's depart. I will. Take care of yourself, little brother. Later on, Si-young became Korea's first vice president. He never thought that it would be the last time he would see his brother again. Is it true that the backer of the Black Terror Lee Hoi-young is going to Manchuria? I'm his nephew, I can recognize him anywhere. Can I get a big reward if I tell you where he is? If you inform us on your uncle, you will get your big reward. Now I can get Lee Hoi-young. This is Manchuria Mini Station. Don't forget your belongings when leaving the train. Lee Hoi-young, you are under arrest. Ouch. Do you have anything to say? Your time is up. If you want to die quickly, tell us where your base is. If you stay quiet, I'm breaking your arms and legs next. You can break my arms and legs, but you can't break my spirit. It doesn't matter that he's an old man, continue torturing him. Yes, sir. Even though he's a terrorist, he's over 60 years old. Any more torture will kill him. I know that, but we have to make him talk. Let me think. We have chased Lee Hoi-young for over 10 years, and never found a trace of him. Ever since the king's exile to the Black Terror, and on and on. They have tried to destroy the Japanese consuls in China. They have tried to assassinate the Chinese ambassador to Japan, who was very supportive of the Japanese. Our people are losing faith in the mighty Japanese police force because we have let one man fool us for so long. He is also inspiring other Koreans to start resistance movements against us. Major. We can't let this happen. We have to kill Lee Hoi-young here without anyone knowing. He's not breathing. He was forgotten in the pages of history. Lee Hoi-young. I didn't know that we owned so much land. I was reluctant to sell our family's land, but I knew that we had to. The people understood our intentions, and our sacrifice for our country. It doesn't matter if we are remembered or not, our actions will never be erased from history. The clouds may hide the sun, but it can never extinguish its light. Even if our names aren't remembered, but in time, the people of this land will be. Free. That is the fruits of our sacrifice for our country. On November 17, 1932, Li Huiyang died in Liusun prison in China without the public notice. The Japanese were worried about a public backlash from his death. Because of his philanthropic work, he was held in prison and tortured. All without trial. After the fall of the Japanese Empire, Korea gained independence, but Li Huiyang was forgotten by his country. He sacrificed everything he had, fighting for independence of his nation. But kept his identity a secret. There are no documents of his actions. His wife Lee Eun-suk did keep a diary where she wrote about Li Huiyang, and what he did for the movement. From this, the Korean government can give recognition to Li Huiyang and the movement he led. When people think of the independence movement, most remember Kim Jae-jin and Ahn Jong-jun, but almost no one remembers Li Huiyang. Li Huiyang, a free man, sacrificed it all, without praise or recognition for his country. From now on, we have to keep his memory alive. He spent his life for freedom. If you ask him what true patriotism is, he would describe his life, the life of Li Huiyang. He was born into wealth and status. Many of his ancestors were prime minister to the Joseon dynasty. He spent his childhood wanting for naught. As a young adult, he had a progressive mind. He freed his slaves and was respectful to those of the lower classes. He was very interested in human equality. Going against traditional culture, he allowed his sister to remarry after her husband's death. His ideas were very modern for his time. His family wealth was so vast that you could not enter Seoul without passing through his family's property. Can you imagine how rich he was? When Japan annexed Korea, he sold all his property and relocated. His money and property alone was valued at about 60 billion won in today's value. If you included the wealth and property of the rest of his family, it comes to about 1 trillion won altogether. They spent all their money fighting for their country. He was very interested in education. He established the famous Shinhung Muguan Military School, and involved in Sojin So-suk. Li Huiyang secretly planned the convoy to The Hague and the escape of the Emperor Go-jong. He did his best to keep his identity a secret as well known. He started a number of independence movements, but because of his use of secretly, most people and many other independence leaders didn't know about him. A turning point in his life is when he became an anarchist. When he was young, he believed that equality and freedom for all people can be gained through anarchy. Although as an anarchist, he is opposed to all forms of government, to attack Japan. He helped all who opposed Japan, including government officials. The more Japan oppressed Korean, the more people came to Li Huiyang for help. He begun violent resistance against Japan, 1925 to 1931. They have tried to destroy the Japanese consuls in China. They have tried to assassinate the Chinese ambassador to Japan, who was very supportive of the Japanese. He was arrested in his nephew's betrayal at Manchuria. He was held in prison and tortured without trial. The Japanese denied the true existence of Li Hoi-young. The Japanese newspapers reported that an old man had committed suicide in prison, and that the body was cremated. At last, the Japanese government got its wish, and Li Hoi-young was erased from history. In 2000, China honored Li Hoi-young for his efforts against Japanese occupation. A statue was made in his honor and a place was set for him in the Museum of Patriots. It's ironical that the nation he had fought doesn't know who he is, and he is only honored by China. Though all his sacrifices he lived in anonymity, his work to free his country really forgotten by those who he fought for. We need to be grateful for all those who fought for our nation's freedom, thankful to those who fought on the front lines, and in the shadows.